Support for I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere comes from MX Publishing, with the largest catalog of new Sherlock Holmes books in the world. New novels, biographies, graphic novels, and short story collections about Sherlock Holmes. Find them at mxpublishing.com.
And listeners like you who support us on Patreon or Substack, sign up for exclusive benefits at patreon.com/IHearOfSherlock or IHearOfSherlock.substack.com.
I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, episode 315, The Sherlock Holmes Lego Book Nook.
I hear of Sherlock everywhere since you became astronomer.
In a world where it's always 1895, it's I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, a podcast for devotees of Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the world's first unofficial consulting detective.
I've heard of you before. You're Holmes the meddler, Holmes the busybody, Holmes the Scotland Yard Jack in office.
The game's afoot as we interview authors, editors, creators, and other prominent Sherlockians on various aspects of the great detective in popular culture.
As we go to press, sensational developments have been reported.
So join your hosts, Scott Monty and Bert Wolder, as they talk about what's new in the world of Sherlock Holmes.
You couldn't have come at a better time!
I'm Bill Curtis. This is I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere. Now, here are your hosts, Scott Monty and Bert Wolder.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Bill Curtis. It's a pleasure. Welcome, everyone, to I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, the first podcast for Sherlock Holmes devotees where it's always 1895. I'm Scott Monty.
I'm Bert Wolder.
And Bert, have you picked up all your Lego bricks off of the floor so you don't injure yourself on your way to bed tonight?
Yes, I've picked up all of them except that one. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoa, look at that.
It's a wonderful security system. You know, just toss out a bunch of the smallest pieces of Lego out onto the floor and prevent any intruder from getting through your house without making a noise. And that's of course if they take their shoes off before they come traipsing across the room.
That's true. Well, in my house, if I gather up all the Legos, it annoys the mice because they're always making these little ladders to reach the refrigerator.
It's all about teamwork.
It is.
It is. Well, teamwork is the name of the game. We're going to hear that today in our interview with Antica and Crisy, two members of the Lego development team and design team that came up with the concept of the Book Nook and gave it life in the face of Sherlock Holmes and 221B Baker Street. It's a fascinating conversation that takes you behind the scenes of what it's like to collaborate with team members and to come up with concepts and where it eventually landed. And you'll want to stay tuned after the interview as well, because we have the canonical couplet. It's our Sherlockian quiz program where we give you 2 lines of poetry and we task you with determining which Sherlock Holmes story it represents. In this case, this is where we need the timpani roll. Yes, there it is. Very stately and grandeur-like. We have, as a prize, the winner of this episode's canonical couplet quiz. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
A Sherlock Holmes Lego Book Nook. Woohoo! Yes, it is a huge value. It goes for $130 at retail. So stay tuned for what you need to do to participate in that and potentially win that wonderful prize. Meanwhile, I want to remind you that if you would like to support the show, you can do that in a couple of ways, via Substack or Patreon. You pick whichever works for you. We take credit cards on both of them. We also can work directly with your bank account for as little as $1 a month. You can help support what we do here, help the production, help with the everything that goes into editing and hosting files and keeping files up. We now have episodes that go all the way back to 2007. But please don't go listen to those early episodes. They're terrible. It sounds like amateur hour compared to, believe it or not, what we've learned along the way. Maybe hard to tell. But we do encourage you to become a supporter of the show, because that helps us do what we do. And it also gives you the chance to listen to the show ad-free if you so choose. And we also have special benefits for our supporters occasionally, like exclusive content, bonus content. And in this case, and if you're interested in that Lego set, you're going to want to hear this. This episode's canonical couplet quiz requires you to be a supporter of the show, right? So there's an incentive. If you needed an excuse, all you have to do is become a supporter of the show to become eligible to win. Of course, you have to answer correctly too, but that's another thing. We'll talk about that when we get to the quiz. But we do appreciate your support on Patreon at patreon.com/IHearOfSherlock and on Substack at ihearofsherlock.substack.com. Both of those links are available in the show notes, and we encourage you to check us out there. Oh, that stately music, that intro there, means that it is the time of the show when we turn to the learned societies. These are the Sherlockian societies that meet out in the various locales where they happen to exist. Maybe there's one near you. And look, if there isn't, maybe you can form a society to help you determine how you'd like to meet with other Sherlockians in your area. Actually, I think we did a whole show called Sociable and Clubbable, episode 110. If you'd like to go back and listen to that in season 10, we'll have a link to that in the show notes. Describes what Sherlockian societies do and even how to form your own. So great inspiration there as we get into what's going on in the first half of the month of September in Sherlockian society activities. Bert, why don't you kick us off?
Bang! Yes, September. From September 3rd to September 7th in New Orleans, Louisiana. It's BoucherCon. BoucherCon, for those of you who don't know, I can't imagine there are any of you who don't know, but if you don't, it's the annual World Mystery Convention. It's a 4-day gathering for everybody, readers and writers and publishers and editors and agents and anyone who loves crime fiction, named for the great writer and editor Anthony Boucher. And it's held in a different city each year, and September 3 to 7 this year, it's in New Orleans, Louisiana.
And what's so special about Anthony Boucher?
Well, that is it's quite a question. He had a tremendous imprint in the world of Sherlock Holmes and in mystery fiction in general, promoting, he wrote under a number of pseudonyms. He created some very memorable characters. He offered his own rules for crafting detective fiction. He was an expert in things like the locked room mystery. He was also very sociable. He was a fellow who had his fingerprints all over the world of crime fiction.
And he was a member of the Baker Street Irregulars, was he not?
Yes.
His real name, William Anthony Parker White.
Yeah.
So we do remember him around these parts.
Yep.
Okay, moving on from BoucherCon in New Orleans, also the 3rd of September, which is a Wednesday. That's the first Wednesday of the month, which means if you are in New York City, you should go to the Ash Wednesday dinner, the Adventuresses of Sherlock Holmes. The contact there is Shana Carter. And of course, you can find more information on the Ash website.
And also on the 3rd of September, the Transfixed Correspondence of Phoenix will be having a virtual meeting, and Lauren Cerconi is your contact.
In Cincinnati, Ohio, on September 5th, the Tankerville Club will be hosting a dinner meeting. You can find out more on their Facebook page and by contacting Dan Andriaco.
And you can shine your shoes and be comfortable at home on September 6th for the Bootmakers of Toronto. They're having a virtual meeting, and the contact there is Thelma Beam.
Speaking of virtual meetings, you, too, can be 5 miles from anywhere on September 6th. 5 miles from anywhere. That's the group out in Colorado, I believe. But the meeting is virtual, so it doesn't matter where you are. Derek Belanger is running that meeting, and you can check out their Facebook page.
Yep. And September 7th, the crew of the Bark Lone Star floats their way to a virtual meeting. Our pal Steve Mason is the contact there.
Excellent. And this date is to be determined, but it lands between the 7th and the 13th of September. So a little bit of a range there. In Northfield, Illinois, the Scotland Yarders will be meeting, and Janice Weiner is in charge of that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the mystery. They want you to figure out the date of the meeting. St. Louis, Missouri, September 13, the Parallel Case of St. Louis is meeting, and our friend Rob Nunn is the contact there.
And also on September 13th in Indianapolis, Indiana, the Illustrious Clients will be having their dinner meeting. Louise Haskett is your contact. And, of course, you can check out their Facebook page.
And you can join the Sespudlians of London, Ontario for a virtual meeting. And their contact is at sespudlians.weebly.com.
Easy for you to say.
Not really, no.
And finally, pulling up the rear on September 15th in Columbia, Maryland, Watson's Tin Box of Ellicott City is having a dinner meeting. Matt Hall is organizing that. You can find them at watsonstinbox.org. If you are a part of a Sherlockian society that is hosting an event, get in touch with Ron Fish at the SherlockianCalendar.com, SherlockianCalendar.com. His email address is listed there on the site. Let him know when and where you're meeting and who is your contact information, and Ron will add you to the calendar. Look forward to seeing your events come up there. Our friends at MX Publishing are always coming out with new books, and of course we have talked your ear off all about the MX book of new Sherlock Holmes stories and its final volumes, but what we'd like to talk to you about now are 4 new books in 2025. There's Sherlock Holmes and the Adventure of the Black Pharaoh by J.M. Reinbold. Sherlock Holmes Takes the Case, 8 Tales of Mystery and Intrigue by David McGregor. 221B on Her Majesty's Secret Service by Mark D. Ellis, and The Hidden Enquiries of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Hall. All 4 of these books are exciting adventures in the pastiche style, taking you through various locations and various time settings in the Sherlockian universe. Pick any one of them, pick all 4, it doesn't matter. You're going to have a good time as you read some of these new books that are available from MX Publishing. And just as a reminder, MX offers Audible books as well as paperback and hardbound, and ebooks. So pick your format and get these books in whichever you choose. All available at mxpublishing.com. Design master Antica Bracanov is from Croatia and has been with the LEGO Group since 2016. Before fulfilling her dream of becoming a LEGO designer, she worked in a library. She never could stay too far away from books. And prior to that, she was a writer for an IT magazine. She comes from the adult fans of LEGO community, and her love of building with LEGO bricks started out as a hobby and slowly progressed into a career dream. She lives in a small town in Denmark and spends her free time playing video games, reading books, playing music, and occasionally writing. Chrissy Dyment is a graphic designer with a background in branding, advertising, and illustration. She's been with the LEGO Group for over 2 years and has contributed to a wide range of themes, including Harry Potter, Speed Champions, LEGO Icons, Ideas, and Architecture, among others. Born in Argentina, Crisy grew up in the U.S. outside of Washington, D.C., and is now enjoying the Hygge life in Denmark with her husband, son, and 100-pound dog, Snips. Outside of work, you can typically find her with her nose in a book and adding to her ever-growing stack of to-be-read next. She's always up for the next literary adventure. Antica and Crisy, welcome to I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere.
Hi, thanks for having us. Thank you so
Now,
much.
where are you coming to us from today?
We're in Billund, Denmark.
Lovely.
Yeah, so we live and work here, but originally, so I'm from Croatia.
And I was born in Argentina, but I grew up outside of Washington, D.C. in the States.
Wow, it's like the United Nations here today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, why don't we begin with the question we ask all of our guests, and that is, how did you first meet Sherlock Holmes? Antica, why don't you begin?
So it's hard to remember because I was a very little kid when I first heard of Sherlock Holmes. It was actually a funny story because so I was very much from early age when I learned how to read. I was into mysteries and detective stories. That was just like so interesting to me. But funny thing was when we had a city, like a town library, but as kids we were actually not allowed to borrow any of those books because they were intended for adults. And then I would ask my mom to come with me. So I would tell her what I want, and then she would just borrow it from me. So she was borrowing something for herself, and I remember that I was with her, and I wandered into like this mystery aisle. And just the named The Hounds of the Baskerville just sounded so interesting to me. And then I read the summary on the back, the cover, what it was about. I was like, wow, this sounds so interesting. Like there's this like terrifying dog, like, haunting the village, that I have to read this. So that was also the first story that I ever read. And it's still to this day my favorite one.
That's fantastic. And what about you, Crisy?
Yeah, I think I read every single Sherlock story I could as a kid. I was not forbidden from checking them out of the library, so I grabbed as many of them as I could and ran out of there. And so much so that I thought he was a real person. And so my family and I went to London when I was in grade school, and I insisted that I wanted to go to his house to see his house. And I was so thrilled to see that they had created his house into a museum. And so it wasn't until I was there that someone actually said, like, yeah, we were able to get the address and set it all up. And I was like, what do you mean? But it was still so wonderful to be there. And it made a very lasting impression to actually see kind of the living space recreated physically. But I tried desperately to kind of mimic his method of deduction and everything, because I was a complete nerd as a kid. And I don't think I've grown out of it at all. So, yeah.
Oh, you're one of us.
Yeah.
You're one of us. Yeah.
Well, it's strange because for many years, even back when Arthur Conan Doyle was still alive, people wrote to him at 221B Baker Street, which didn't actually exist during his time. So letters were sent in and still kept getting sent in well into the late 20th century. And as you note, the museum is actually at 239 Baker Street, but they've petitioned the city to officially become 221. So it's just a fascinating melding of the real and the fictional. And I think there's so many representations that have really brought Sherlock Holmes to life that it makes it difficult, which brings us to why we're here today, to talk with both of you about the Sherlock Holmes book Nook from LEGO. Can't tell you how thrilled we as a community were to see this because, I don't know if you can see in my background here, I've got my little minifigure that was a generic Sherlock Holmes from years ago, and people had always wished for a 221B Baker Street recreation. And here we have it writ large in the book Nook. So we were wondering if you might take us through What was the reasoning behind this? What was the creative spark that caused you to say, "Aha, we need a Sherlock Holmes book Nook"?
So that actually started a few years ago. We have this amazing thing in the Lego group. It's called a Boost Week. So basically, it is like we can pitch our ideas at any point, but we have this very specific week that is just dedicated to the broader organizations, specifically designers, to pitch their ideas to the company. And I had this idea of making Lego book nooks for a while, and I used that week to actually pitch the idea. And then, of course, I started thinking, so what do I want to show in the book nook concept? And I paired up with a couple of my other colleagues, so we all came together and we made a few concepts. And I said, from my end, I knew right away that Sherlock was something that I like. It's something that it's been on my mind for a while, and I think this is a really perfect concept for Sherlock Holmes. So it was from day one when I started working on this concept. Sherlock was the concept that like the idea that I wanted to bring forward, and luckily it was recognized as a really interesting new concept, and everybody nobody questioned Sherlock as the theme that we should go with, and I was super happy. And then we brought Crisy and another designer, Johanna, as other Sherlock nerds, so yeah, to work on this, and it was just like such a fun thing to work on.
So what was? I mean, was that a unique thing at the time? The idea that you'd have, a Lego instantiation that would then be able to open and close and be on a shelf. Was that sort of the concept? And was that a new thing?
Yeah, it was. Book nooks are not new in general. Like they do exist, but we didn't have any in Lego brick form. So that was new, but we liked the idea of having a nook between the books, but we also wanted to do a little bit more. So we also want, like, especially because it is like a detective story. Like I do actually have the model, so you can see it physically. Like the idea was that you can actually play with it and interact. So you can open it and get closer and inspect, everything, and get these little. Like Crisy made an amazing job with all the references. So we have so many references from so many different books and stories, and we just wanted to offer everybody the opportunity to get closer to the model and look at it that way. So yeah, so you have different options. Like you can display it like this between your books, and you can also come closer and actually play with everything.
That's brilliant. Now, is that the actual working model that you have there, or is that one of the production?
This is a model, yes.
Oh, terrific. Fabulous. Now, just out of curiosity, how do you go about in the company creating something like that? I mean, this is not an afternoon's worth of work to physically get it off the page and into the 3D world.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have this a whole process. It does take a while. A first sketch might take, maybe a few days or something, but then you start thinking something that's very important to us is the building experience. So first, one of the things that we think when we're working on these models is how is someone else going to build this? So you think about stability of the model. This model is very specific. Like it's very different than some of the models that we normally have, because these are buildings, but they are very thin, like because it is sort of a book that kind of opens. So that was, one of the challenges. How do you make something that's very tall but very narrow, has to be very stable, but you also have so many of these things that you can interact with. Like we had a lot of different iterations, and then with every iteration you add something else. You think, oh, what if we had this? What if we had something that opens or rotates? What if we have this here? So it's a process, and we have a huge team that contributes. So you don't work alone; you work with a lot of different people. So a lot of ideas come to you during this process. So yeah, it's just so much fun.
Sounds like making an animated film almost.
Where if we had the whole team, we would not fit in this room at all. Like it's just the two of us today, but it's definitely more than just the two of us working on it. So it's a huge team.
And that's interesting to me, having worked in corporate before and knowing how things die slowly by committee. You take what you think is a great idea and it gets watered down and watered down and watered down. But here, we're seeing the execution, which is marvelous. And you talked about so many different people on the team that are part of this. Talk to us a little bit about how, or perhaps what different roles are involved, what kinds of positions these people hold, and how they contribute to the process to make this a reality.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we could go through every single touch point, because since it is a physical product, we would have to acknowledge, the folks actually doing the production of the elements and everything, and down to the element designers. I think if we did a quick zoom into our team, we do have different themes and teams that kind of come together. So I come from the graphics team, and there were several of us that actually contributed to the set. We also have a textiles team. So this set did include textiles, so the fabrics for the capes. And so they also have their inputs. We have the element designers that'll help us if we have to color change something or create a new mold.
Like we made a hat for Sherlock, so that was our element design team.
Mm-hmm. And then we also have the building instructions that helps, as Antica was saying, with the actual process and making sure that it is as fun as humanly possible to actually build and then play with it afterwards.
Yeah. So it's a very big team.
Yeah, and then model. So yourself.
And model, of course. So we also have a big team of model designers. So we are a group of designers that physically work on these sets, and we spar a lot together. We help each other. So you have an idea, but you will, at all stages of development, you will go to your colleagues and say, what do you think of this? What can I improve? And they will give you feedback. So that's just how we work. That's very normal for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a lot of fun.
So I would imagine you had to practice putting the set together, assembling the set. Is that something you had to do in totality, or was one of you assigned to a particular area of it? How was that? How does that work?
We normally have one person that is kind of assigned to the set to take it through all the stages in production. And yes, so basically the way it works, you do have to build your set several times from beginning to end, because you have to make sure that whoever is going to be following the instructions is going to be able to do that, because like you can build it yourself, but this has to be possible to build to anybody who buys the set. So we work very closely with designers of building instructions and make sure that every step is everything that you see is broken down into steps that are easy to follow. So to be able to do that, you have to keep building the model over and over.
Wow, that's grand. So you mentioned some of the details, the references to the Sherlockian world that Crisy brought to the table. So tell us a little bit about that, about what the detective experience is like in assembling and playing with this.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, I have to admit. So it gave me an opportunity to reconnect with these stories that, as I mentioned, I read as a child and just fell in love with. And it was trying to find moments in the stories that both casual and more intense fans or more beloved fans of the set in the series could appreciate. And so that way we were inviting everyone into the Sherlock world. And so just combing through all the stories to see what key moments could stand out, both visually and also falling within the Lego design kind of style and humor. And so, like, some of my favorite details are we used the dancing men code to spell out Lego. We were also able to include the infamous red herring of Rash and the golden ring. And so just trying to dive in as deep as we could. And then even including the Lego dog element as the Hounds of Baskerville. So that way it just feels within the Lego universe and kind of doing our own sort of representation of it.
Wow!
I remember when we started, going deeper into development of this model. I was talking to Crisy, and she had like this gigantic list of all the references that we could put in the model, and we're just thinking, okay, I really want to put this one. I need to make space to actually reference this. So it was so much fun, and I think she had so many references just like physically we could not put in the model, but there was. Yeah,
and we had a specific group chat just for this project, and we were like, "Oh, what about this?" And like, "Yeah, that's a great idea. I was thinking this." So it's a lot of excitement.
Now here's a Sherlock nerd question. Okay. One of the things and I imagine, just thinking about what you're talking about, I can imagine the whole team, the dozens and dozens and dozens of people who are working on this were running off to the library and buying Sherlock Holmes stories and saying, what's all this about? But one of the curiosities of the Sherlockian world is that we know a lot about a lot of locations, and we know something about Baker Street, about his sitting room. But Watson sort of, bow windows come and go, curtains come and go. How did you decide, what the key elements were in the Baker Street sitting room?
So
since there's so much variety, Watson isn't consistent in what he's talking about.
And actually, that's a good point, because that actually made us think, how do we see this?
Mm-hmm.
So we did want to, because both of us read these books, since we were kids, and when you read, you create the image in your head. So we were also guided a little bit by what is written, but also a little bit how we ourselves imagined these places and these characters as we were reading about them. So when it comes to his reading room, I had different iterations, but then it did come down to how much of it can fit in the available space that we made, because it is a very narrow space, because this is, as I said before, it's a very narrow model. So the space that's allocated to be his study room is not that big. So we wanted to put the most important things, like you want to have like a little desk, you want to have some references, and we're imagining I don't know if it was I can't remember anymore if it was mentioned that he has this clue board, but we're like, oh, we should just put this clue board where he's like linking these things. We have, of course, we have a violin, because it's really important to have that detail. And we had just little bits and pieces that we thought make sense, and just wanted to create like this, just a cozy space where we can imagine him sitting down and mulling over clues.
That's wonderful.
But it works really well. And I mean, I have to imagine that the list of things that are not on that you made that did not make it into the set, well, maybe they could contribute to a volume 2 someday. I'm not telling your product team what to do. I'm just saying. So this just seems like it had to be a lot of fun to work on. And I think we're getting that from you. This is a labor of love. It's a personal interest that you brought to it. So talk to us a little bit about the idea of doing a book nook and putting Sherlock Holmes as the first iteration out there for Lego. Why does Sherlock Holmes work in this regard better than some other literary reference?
At Lego here, especially Lego design, we have 3 values that we really kind of adhere to, which are bravery, curiosity, and focus. And we felt as though, at least I personally was really excited, and I thought that Sherlock was the perfect fit, because he also kind of reflects those 3 attributes and those 3 values. So I think for us, it was just a fun part to, Lego is all about discovering and thinking like, well, what if this, and what if this, and what if this happens? And, we do have sets that have building instructions, but we're heavily encouraging everyone to then take it apart and make it their own. And what better than, the master of deduction and the master of curiosity than Sherlock himself, kind of taking this apart and creating his own stories afterwards with it. So for me personally, it was a no-brainer to do Sherlock. I don't know, we don't have the marketing team here, so I don't know how they decided or what they put into it. But
wow,
that was for me the ultimate thumbs up.
Yeah, I can just say ditto. Yeah,
it's terrific.
That's great. So as you're thinking about this, the success of this book nook, and I have to imagine that it's flying off the shelves. I know your marketing team isn't here to report on the actual statistics yet, but based on our community, the excitement that we've seen around it has been really reinforcing. And that actually it leads me to another question before I was going to get to that one. Talk about the marketability, the appeal of Sherlock Holmes to the general public versus a specialty nerd group like ours.
Yeah, so that I think we are always trying to make something that will appeal to a broader audience. And I think the versatility of this set is something that enables us to talk to speak to different audience. So this set is something that it has like a very clear intention and almost like a designated space where we intend for the set to be placed, which is on your bookshelf. And we are inspired. We were inspired by the reading community, especially a lot of us being bookworms here ourselves. But also we did make it so that you can also play with the set. So it doesn't matter what age you are. You can build set. You can play with it. There's so many interactive things in the set that you can actually play with. You have minifigures that you can play with as well, and it's so interesting and amazing to me every time we put these sets. People take them and they're inspired to do something else with them, to expand them. It's something that I used to do myself. I would buy a set and then I would think, oh, I want to add something by myself to this set. So they take it and they turn it into like a big house or like a bigger town layout. So I think it's very. I'm always just so happy to see how people take something and just use it in a different way. So yeah.
You know,
And that's the marvelous thing about the Lego community is just how creative they are and how they can literally build on what you've already created. And you mentioned the minifigures, Antica. Obviously, we have Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson here. But talk to us a little bit about the selection of and the creation of additional figures and how you came to actually choosing these.
I think we had, of course, a list of characters that we wanted to include. And we actually spoke with the Arthur Conan Doyle estate because they were our partners on this. And they also had their own suggestions. So we were, just trying to balance, first of all, how many figures are we going to have? Because it's like an outdoors scene. So we don't have a lot of space actually in the street and we don't have interior. So we were talking about we had a list of names that we wanted to include. So first you need to have Sherlock and Watson, of course. And of course we wanted to include Moriarty because we wanted to have, both the good guys and the villain. And we thought maybe we have a little bit more space to tell some other stories and, reference some other characters. We couldn't put all of them. So yeah, and we want to talk a bit more about those.
Yeah, and Irene is, his ultimate almost rival or like counterpart in the world. And so we felt very strongly about including her. And then Paige for us was really fun to include. So Paige is the irregular. And we named her because I am personally a huge fan of puns. But we thought it was really exciting, too, to have not only the irregulars represented, because sometimes they're forgotten in representation, but also she became a mystery within the set itself. So everyone was asking, who's Paige? Who's Paige? And for us, that to be able to spark a mystery just by naming a character was so much fun, and it leads right into Sherlock's own style. But also, it allows fans to kind of dream up their own stories and have their own page in the Sherlock story. And so that for us, it was a really fun character to include, even though she doesn't show up in the books. But it was our own little kind of mystery to add into the set.
Yeah, and something that I love so much is I was listening to someone talk about the set. They built it, and we named the character Paige, but the character doesn't have a last name. But I heard someone referring to the character as Paige Turner, and I just love that so much.
Yeah.
Paige Turner.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're being inspired to continue naming the characters. It's just that's what we love to see. Like we love seeing the fans kind of take what we've put down and kind of run with it. So,
that's great. Mm-hmm. One of the many lovely things about this is that, you've got these properties, these stories, not really properties, these stories, Harry Potter, and there are some wonderful Lego instantiations of Hogwarts and all sorts of things to do with Harry Potter. And then you've got Batman and the superhero characters in their own places, the Batcave and things like that. And the Lego movie. Mm-hmm. Where you get to see the characters, tell a story on the screen. But all of this has a wonderful thing with the book Nooks of encouraging reading. And so now you're reaching people who might not have read anything about Sherlock Holmes, but hey, it's a book nook, so why don't I get a book to go with it?
Mm-hmm.
So is it, can I imagine that there are going to be sort of more basically literary things in as book? I mean, it would be silly to have only one book. I mean, clearly there are going to be more book nooks, aren't there?
We actually have, so far we have 3 book nooks. So we have this one. We have one that is Lord of the Rings theme. So we have Gandalf versus Balrog, and we have one from Harry Potter. But we do have we don't just have book nooks. We do have little. I think you mentioned some that we have.
We have other kind of book-related sets, typically based on like classic fairy tales, like Little Red Riding Hood, Jack and the Beanstalk. We have A Christmas Carol, Hans Christian Andersen. Most recently, we have a tribute series based on famous authors. So Jane Austen and Jules Verne have their own little sets.
Wow.
And so, as an avid book reader, I would love to see even more. There's only so much we personally can do. But it's always fun to hear from the community, too, to see what they're interested in. So we highly encourage that if it's something they're interested in, we do listen to the comments. So definitely write back.
Tell me a little bit about the Jules Verne. I didn't know that existed. That's fabulous.
Yeah, it was a gift with purchase, I believe, that came out.
So it was like a smaller
It was a smaller set, and it was available through the Lego store and website. And it was just a little tribute. It was super cute. I highly encourage you to look it up. A cute little tribute to him. And I don't remember when that one came out.
Was it 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or was it?
I think it was several of his stories.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
When we reference specific authors, we try to put like little references to their books. I think the latest one, Jane Austen, has like just references from her books and characters. Yeah.
Well, that's grand.
Yeah.
And you put these together from different times from throughout the 1800s, whether it's A Christmas Carol or Jules Verne or Jane Austen, and you get a whole Victorian era Lego town or construction to work with. That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us a little bit about, well, as much as you can, about future plans, what you're working on, or what is coming to market that we can expect to see from Lego in this particular realm.
Yeah, so I unfortunately we can't talk about anything in future. So we can only hope that you will be pleasantly surprised with everything that we have. We have amazing products coming. I have this thing that I keep saying. I spoke like in a different interview when they asked me what is your favorite model that you worked so far, and I always say like that, like the one that I'm holding, I always say, this was my favorite one. And I say it for every single one that comes out. So I feel like I'm just excited for everything that we keep doing. And hopefully everybody else will be as well.
Yeah, terrific.
Well, is there anything else that you would like people to know about the process or the behind the scenes of the product, the stuff that we don't know about typically as we receive these sets and open them and build them and play with them?
I think something about this one that I think is interesting. When I first made the first concept, I had this idea that it would be really cool to put some sort of a mystery to solve in the model. And we wanted to do that physically so that you have, like here you have a hidden door that I have these 2 like chimneys, and one of them doesn't do anything and the other one actually opens the door. So if you open, just broke something. If you open it, you have Moriarty actually hiding behind the door. So originally I had this idea that you first have to find a key somewhere in the model in order to do that. And we had this version of the model for some time, but it was just one of those challenges where it was very difficult to maintain a quality of the building experience that we wanted. So it just made a model that, as I said a few times, it's very narrow. It doesn't have a lot of space. So you have to really be smart about how you're going to build this whole thing, and just adding this another layer of it, like a puzzle solving. It turned the whole model into, like, it was like it was like this, not escape room, but like a puzzle box. And it was just so complex that it was just too tedious to build. There was so many tiny details, so many like little things. We kind of cleaned it up a little bit, so we wanted to still keep the mystery. So you still have a lot of things that you can open and like you can turn things, but it's just on a bit of more contained level. But I think it's interesting like to track the model from beginning to an end. I personally think it's way better now than it was when I just started on it. But this is also thanks to my team and all the input that we got. Like because we also have a lot of people that physically take the model and just play with it and see. Every idea that you have, you give it to someone else and you ask, "What do you think of this? Can you show me how you would play with this? How you would open this?" So that also guides you to improving things. Like if something breaks, if people are trying to open it, then you have to change that and make it better, more intuitive, and all that. So yeah.
So this is very clearly the best possible edition that has made it to market.
It goes through a lot of love, like a lot of refinement, and we're always so proud to see the final result. Because you start with the idea and you're like, oh, this is perfect, and then you fix it again. Now it's perfect, and you get to the end, you're like, oh my goodness, like how did it get better?
Yeah.
And then from my end, from graphics, actually, we were really excited because in the so we have the elementary bookshop as part of the set. So when you open up the little doors, and TJ was talking about like how we're able to hide things within such a narrow space. Within one of the graphics, we actually have the original cover of the book in there. And so that was really fun for us to be able to tie that into the bookshop, to have the original cover of the stories in there as well. And like I said, we had so much fun putting as many little details as possible. And I think these graphics went through so many changes just between like, oh, this works better, this is better represented, or this is a better story. We even have like a jar of honey because Sherlock becomes a beekeeper later on. So just trying to touch all these different points within the stories in the universe. Just a lot of fun for us.
Little Easter eggs that people can find along the way.
We have so many of those.
Yeah, we have so many.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that there is one downside about this book, Nook. I hate to break it to you. It's going to take up valuable space on my bookshelves. It could be dedicated to books.
Oh, no. Buy another bookshelf. More books.
Buy another bookshelf. Yeah.
That's always the solution.
Yeah.
That's
Fabulous.
what I tell my husband at work. At home, actually. I need another bookshelf. I bought another book.
That's the only solution,
Yeah,
right? Every time I buy a new book, I'm like, oh, where am I going to put this book? And, it doesn't stop me from buying more books. So.
No.
It's a business expense.
Yeah, sure. That'd be great. I wish.
Yeah. Fabulous.
Well, if people would like to learn more about this Sherlock Holmes 221B Baker Street book Nook and buy it, where would they go?
So we have, of course, in every Lego store, and we have them on Lego.com, and you can also walk into Barnes and Noble and find it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
That's amazing. I mean,
Terrific.
Perfect integration, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Love it. Well, is there anything else that we missed that we should have asked you about before we let you go?
I can't remember.
I don't know. I've got my notes in front of me, but I think we hit everything.
You're as flabbergasted as we are. I love it.
We're
guys
just
are
excited to talk to you guys. So
Yeah.
You guys are great. The lovely thing about this is that you brought your own personal enthusiasm to it, and your knowledge, and you just thought about the details and the atmosphere, and built around that, and it's terrific. Really is terrific. Wonderful to see it come to life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you both very much for being with us here on I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so much fun, and we're just so happy to be able to speak to other Sherlock fans as well.
Mm-hmm. Fellow nerds.
It's wonderful. We talked about this. I think we hit all the points, but the connection to reading and so on. Early on, before we began recording, I was talking to them about their own experiences. And Antica mentioned that she sort of came to Lego as an adult, and it's just such a lovely, mix of people. The whole synthesis here of play, storytelling, characters, making it personal, focusing attention, being faithful to the environment, wanting to recreate these sorts of things. It really is, it's like a huge animated film with an enormous number of people behind the scenes, technicians and storyboarding and just look at the things that they're thinking about, how the instructions work, and what about the experience of putting it together, and is it really fun? That's terrific, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, as a consumer, you wouldn't normally think of all of these things. You see your set and you build it, and maybe you get frustrated along the way. I skipped a step, or I missed a piece, or what have you. And that's all part and parcel of it. But there are people behind the scenes who have gone through this umpteen times, who have figured out how to make it the best possible experience, as you say. And to me, Lego is a legendary brand, and particularly when it comes to storytelling. We don't think that often about building bricks or building blocks as elements of storytelling. And yet, Lego is the physical manifestation of our imagination. And we can create so many of our own versions of this. Yes, they come in a set, but you can also take little pieces apart. You can start to build your own. And so, to me, what Lego has is a lock on physical fan fiction. As much as we talk about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson and their iterations, well, look, they've put Page in there, and they've given us things to work with and to build upon ourselves literally as a building block of storytelling. The jaunty strings are here again. That's right, it's time for the Canonical Couplet, the Sherlockian quiz program, where we give you 2 lines of poetry, and we ask you to play sleuth and identify which Sherlock Holmes story we are talking about. Well, the last time we were around here, we gave you this clue. A wild goose chase is sometimes all you need to accommodate the object of a felon's greed. Oh, Bert. Any whiff of a sense of what's going on here?
Yeah, of course. That's an interesting case because it stems from Watson's exclamation when he dressed the wound of an hydraulics expert who explained to him that he'd built a wine press with no room for the grapes. That's the case Watson called the engineer's dumb.
He sure is. Why you're not going to get points for that, however. You are not. But our friend Eric Deckers came to the rescue. He writes, "Holy shnikes, I solved it. This is the adventure when Holmes and Watson help track down 3 men with the name Garadeb in the hopes that they can raise a baby girl who had been left on Nathan Garadeb's doorstep." It's the story Watson called 3 Garadebs and a Baby. Except when I watched this, one of the Garadebs looked like Tom Selleck, so I may have confused this story with a classic 80s movie. It's more likely to be The Adventure of the 3 Garadebs. Why, yes, Eric, that is correct. Okay, well, normally what we do during this time is we turn to the big prize wheel and give it a spin, selecting one lucky entry at random, because everyone's supposed to submit an accurate entry. And in this case, Bert, no one submitted the 3 Garadebs.
Oh, no.
We had a lot of people, almost everyone exclusively, guessed the Blue Carbuncle. That line about the wild goose chase. is what threw them off. But what you should have focused on was the object of a felon's greed. Remember, Nathan Garadeb was sent off on a wild goose chase to get him out of the house so Killer Evans could come in and grab the plates from the Bank of England that were underneath the floorboards there. So, tricky one. It was a tricky one.
That's a real shame because the prize, was the Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow, the 1967 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow.
Well,
so I guess we're not going to be giving that away.
No, you and I keep getting to drive around in it. So,
good.
No harm, no foul. No. However, this is better than a Rolls-Royce. The prize, as we said, this time around is for the Lego Sherlock Holmes book Nook. So you have to be a supporting member of the show, either on Patreon or on Substack. And you have to submit the correct response. And then we'll choose your name at random. That'll allow you to potentially win that prize. So if everyone is ready for it, take notes. Here is your clue. A figure at the window gave a fright that took a note from Holmes to set her right. If you know the answer to this episode's canonical couplet, put it in an email addressed to comment@ihearofsherlock.com with canonical couplet in the subject line. If you have one of the correct answers and we choose your name at random, you'll win. Good luck. Well, Bert.
Yes.
You feel lucky for next week? I know you're not eligible to win, unfortunately.
No, drat. Well, I'll make myself comfortable in the back seat of the Rolls and have another canapé.
You just park there. That's good. And the turning radius of 60 feet, whatever it is.
That's right. Well, if you're really driving one of those cars, you're not going to pay any attention to the turning radius. You just pull over to the side of the road and wait for an earthquake.
I love it.
Yeah.
Very sturdy and steady. Well, until we are around here with you folks next time, this is Scott Monty, the Rolls-Royce of podcast hosts.
And this is Bert Wolder, the Hugo of Hugos. And together we say...
The games of foot.
The games of foot.
I'm afraid that in the pleasure of this conversation, I am neglecting business of importance, which awaits me elsewhere.
Thank you for listening. Please be sure to join us again for the next episode of I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, the first podcast dedicated to Sherlock Holmes.
Goodbye, and good luck, and believe me to be, my dear fellow, very sincerely yours, Sherlock Holmes.